Welcome. I'm Laurie Werner Castillo, the first Vice President of the Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group. Welcome to our monthly meeting for August 2024. We welcome those members participating via Zoom and those joining us on Facebook. Welcome also to those watching the recordings at a later date. We're glad to have you with us whenever. All right. We'll start with our opening prayer, and I've asked Jerry Castillo to give that.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather together and to participate and talk about family history and how it affects us and our families and our ancestors. We pray, Father, for thy Spirit to be with us. May we all be able to learn and to have new understanding of how we can do this work. We also pray for our presenters this day. We ask that they may be able to speak freely and to find the right words to communicate to us their thoughts and ideas. This we ask humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Our main presentation today will be given today by Dawn Brimhall. Our second hour presenters are Sandra Brimhall and Wendy Brimhall. Wendy's Dawn's mother and her sister. So yes, family history is a family thing with the Brimhalls. Was there any kind of handout or anything that was available for us? Or?
My handout is a QR code at the end of the presentation.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. I hope everybody heard that. Okay, and Dawn's presentation is entitled Beyond the Dusty Box, Turning Family History into a Teen Adventure. The description of her talk is this: struggling to get your teenager interested in family history? This presentation explores interactive tech tools, creative projects, and collaborative strategies to turn genealogy research into a rewarding family adventure. Learn how parents and teens can work together to build a family tree and unearth hidden stories and connect with their ancestors, all while strengthening family bonds in the process. I think many of us are concerned about the future of the family history information, keepsakes, and heirlooms we have accumulated. We need this advice, especially from someone who was a teen not so long ago. A little bit about Dawn. Her full name is Dawn Retta Brimhall. She received a BA in history teaching from Brigham Young University and a master's in education from the University of St. Thomas. In 2020, she was named the Aldine Independent School District Secondary Teacher of the Year in Houston, Texas. She currently serves as the Social Studies Instructional Specialist at Davis High School in Aldine Independent School District. She enjoys travel, photography, music, and family history. A spoiler alert is she is currently working on her PhD. Place any questions you may have for Dawn in the chat on Zoom or the similar feature in Facebook. And we'll turn the time over to you, Dawn. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you all for inviting me to be here today. I'm really excited to talk to you about some of my favorite subjects. As Laurie said, I'm in education and I'm also in history education. And so I have spent a lot of time, almost 15 years, working with teenagers. So I've taught thousands of them at this point. And on top of it, it's family history. And that's, as you have heard, one of my favorite topics. And it's something that my family is very passionate about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. And we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so Beyond the Dusty Box, Turning Family History into a Teen Adventure. I think that one of the things that I've encountered a lot with students as I've taught them over the years is that they generally come to my history classes with this preconceived notion that history is boring. They think that there is just a lot of dates and facts, and what they don't really realize is that history is really, as it says almost in the subject matter, the story of us. And when we build and turn things into a narration instead, or a narrative of, the adventures that individuals have, and the triumphs and tragedies of the experiences that individuals have, that it really becomes a lot more meaningful, but it also becomes something that we can relate to. So I wanted to start off as, why should teens learn their family history? And this is really, I think, an important question, because we oftentimes just think that, oh, they might be bored, there's no reason to teach them now, or that, there's always some time later. But teenagers are in a very perfect place to not only really understand and learn about their family history, but they're there in a spot where they're developing, they want to make connections, they really want to understand who they are, where they are, and what they're able to do. And so capitalizing on helping teenagers learn their family story or their family narrative is very, very important. On top of that, teenagers, before they get super, super busy into, understanding or getting into their own personal life and trying to, go to college and trying to start families of their own, they're in this perfect time and space where they have access to technology, they know how to use technology. They also are interested in developing their own hobbies and crafts. And so it really is a good place to hit them with, hey, what about your family history? And so on the screen, I have just a quote from Rome Nilsson, who just said that the single most important thing that we can do for our teens is to help develop a strong family narrative and help them learn their family history. Because, as I said, teenagers want to make connections and they want to understand who they are, and what their potential is, and they will make connections. They are going to connect, and we can maybe help them connect in a positive manner to their family, rather than just make connections to whatever they happen to find on the internet or amongst their peers. So I wanted to start just quick with an agenda. So we're going to start by talking about creating opportunities to incorporate family history. And then we're going to look through several different ideas. And then we'll wrap up with a couple of additional resources. So the first thing, and really honestly the most important thing when working with teenagers, is that they want to do something that matters. Not only do they want to matter, but they want to do something that matters. They don't want to do busy work. They don't want to just do something because they're told to do so. They want to connect, but they want to really do something that is going to maybe be important to either themselves or to someone else. And so as either a parent, a family member, maybe if you are listening, maybe you are a youth leader, maybe you are into youth projects, finding ways to naturally incorporate family history and family stories is really an important, but also can be a really easy thing to do to help teenagers become more interested in family history. So the number one I listed is informal and formal family gatherings. So what I meant by informal is that around the dinner table, you can actually be having conversations with your children, your teenagers, about, hey, did you hear this story about grandpa? Did you know when he did this? And it doesn't always have to be like moral lessons or anything like that. I remember my mom one time was telling us about the time that my grandmother stole a car and skipped out on Sunday school. And, that's crazy. I mean, my grandmother stole a car. I mean, but on the other hand, that kind of tells me a little bit about, she has a really interesting personality and she was very lively. In terms of formal family gatherings, this could be anything. This could be weddings. This could be even funerals. This could be semi-formal family gatherings, such as family home evening, family night. Just finding ways and times to incorporate some family. So family celebrations, another really big one, kind of goes with formal family gatherings. But with that caveat with family celebrations, I would also suggest family holidays or cultural holidays. Where I teach here in Houston, our students are really big on Hispanic Heritage Month, and they do a lot with the Day of the Dead. They do a lot with Cinco de Mayo. My African American students, they are always having family gatherings. They don't need a reason, but just using that time to push family history in a natural way. Youth projects is also a great way. If you are a youth leader, or even if you're not, if you're a parent, just trying to find things for your teenager to do that is related to family history, Eagle Scout projects, other school projects. My sister for Young Winds, she did a huge project where she built a family tree, that was like a craft project. The one caveat with that is that if you are a youth leader, is that sometimes you may encounter people who really don't want to delve into their family history for whatever reason. And so realizing that there's other ways to celebrate family history. So culture, food, you can also have them write about themselves, because it's just as important to write about our life and our legacy as it is to also go and learn about others. So a couple of other things, just trips, holidays, to family history sites. And so we'll talk about a lot of those as we continue along. So first of all, I really wanted to spend a couple minutes on art, crafts, photos, and memories. So on the screen, I have a calendar. It says, it's that time of year, make a family calendar. My aunt and uncle in Virginia, they every year would build a family calendar. Just they would gather photos from all of the extended family members. And on my dad's side of the family, we had, 9 siblings. And they would put this calendar together and they would send it to our grandmother in Utah. And I don't know necessarily how that went with, their family and how they decided on photos or anything like that. But what I always appreciated is when I was at grandmother's house, I like to look through that calendar and I like to see, oh, hey, that's that cousin, or that's this person. And so not only was my family in Virginia doing, a project that was for them, but they were actually contributing and doing a project for the rest of the family members. We still have a lot of those calendars. We inherited them from our grandmother. And now some of the photos that are in those calendars, that's the only copy that I know of besides, whatever was sent to them that we have available to us. And so that's been very helpful. Other craft projects, as I said, my sister for Young Women, she created a family history tree, and it was an actual tree. And she, she's about 30 years old now. She has had that tree for 15 years. It has decorated her desk, but I believe that she knows every single one of those members on their family tree. On that family tree, she has their group sheet memorized, and so she knows who everybody is, and she's the one that I go to for everything. But there's other ideas too. Maybe you like making wreaths, or maybe you like making blankets. One of the things that I've noticed a lot with the students that we work with here in Houston is that they really like arts and crafts projects. They really like to create. And not only do they like to create, but they actually really like to spend time, get into it, make it a social hour. We have like a crochet club in our school, and we have scrapbooking, we have everything. So use the interests of the kids, your teenagers, to also turn and do a little bit of family history. So I mentioned the crochet club. A lot of my aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles, they were really into crocheting. And so my mother made sure that we learned a little bit of crocheting, but we also learned how to make connections to, hey, grandma made this because of, or this Afghan was really important because of, and so we just would tie in stories with what we were making. Another example, we are in the digital age, and so we can make digital and paper scrapbooks and digital other memorabilia. So an example I have on the screen is actually from a student project. We asked the students to do a "Who are you? Where am I from?" And any student can do it. Maybe you've noticed that this is actually in Spanish. Our students, a lot of them are Spanish speakers, and they said, well, I want to do something in Spanish that I can give back to my family. And so they did it in Spanish, and that was perfectly fine. We have the tools now that we can translate instantly whatever it is that the students turn in. But this digital scrapbook actually was really valuable. It connected this student with their family. A project actually made the student go talk to their family. We have a really great story where one of the teachers said that their student came up to them and said, you know, I'd been fighting with my mother, and then you assigned me this project, and I had to complete the project because I wanted a good grade. And so I had to go talk to my mom. And that got us talking again because we started talking about who are our grandparents. Um, Another one that I've thrown on the side here is that maybe you don't want to create something, maybe they aren't interested in creating, but they can still archive, they can still utilize tools to digitize records and or scrapbooks and photos that you already have just lying around. Maybe your grandparents have something lying around. And so on the right side, I showed you a tool called Photo Scanner that comes from MyHeritage that extracts the photos, and you can upload them and preserve your family history that way. And there's a lot of different tools out there that allow you to do that. Even your iPhone will just allow you to make clean scans, but that's a nice way that you can also involve your teenager. A really fun one is using AI. AI is becoming fairly ubiquitous these days. Your teenagers are encountering AI in Facebook and social media. They're using it on Canva. Even big sites like Google and ChatGPT and even Amazon have their own AI technologies, and most of it is free and easy to use. And so what I did is I uploaded a few photos of myself, and then I put it into the MyHeritage time machine, and I had a lot of fun clicking through and finding AI photos of myself in different time periods. So I have one from the 40s, one from the 30s, one from like the Renaissance era. Could have gone further back, they have biblical. But it's really kind of fun to sit there and be like, what would I look like if I was in this time period? And you can extend that further and have your teenagers also compare their AI images to ancestors. I did a similar one with my grandmother's photos, and I took a look at how would I look versus my grandmother, and we pretty much look identical. But AI is such a great tool for teenagers, and since they are all becoming fairly competent on AI, you know, you can extend what you can do with family history using your teenager's knowledge of AI. So AI nowadays is also doing handwriting analysis. It is able to help begin look at records and provide suggestions. And so ask for your child's or your teenager's expertise on utilizing AI. And you know, you have to also train them that AI is not the end all be all, and you have to also train them that they still need to learn good research and family history skills, but use their expertise, and that not only helps them realize that they matter and what they do is important, but it also helps them connect in because now they're kind of interested. How does AI help me, help you, help everybody else? So that's a really large area to tap into. Another thing that you can do is little photo activities. So the AI one was an example, but Family Search is constantly coming up with new activities and interactive things that your teenagers can get into as long as they can access Family Search. So the one on the top one is to keep your memory of your ancestors alive, and they have you go through like a little quizzes where you look at the different ancestors and, hey, who is this? And do I know this person? I think I would lose if my sister and I did this together, but that's all right. That's okay. We would have a lot of fun talking about it anyway and be like, you didn't know that person? But as you can see, there's other examples too. You can do which ancestor do you look most like? Choose a historical photo and replace your faces with their faces. There's just a lot of different options if you're trying to just talk to your student, or I say student, sorry, your teenager about family history. Another one you can do is technology and family history. So I actually wanted to show you a quick clip from one of these family reunion videos that we made. And then I'm going to talk you through the process just a little bit. So let's see if we can get it to work. As I said, I'm not showing a lot, but
Henry Frederick and Elizabeth Grace McCune, who were the parents of 13 children. In his journal, Henrietta's father described her as a beautiful, sweet child. It is likely she was named after her father because many of her siblings were also given family names. Henrietta's grandparents, Matthew and
as I said, I'm not showing you a ton of the clip. Um, sometimes the PowerPoints just don't like me. What can I say? And then it just skips ahead. That's cool. Technology is the best. It really is. So, one of the things that your teenagers are getting pretty good at is cinematography. They are constantly bombarded with video footage, making videos. Probably you guys have heard of things like TikTok or 30-second videos on YouTube, and your teenagers can do a lot of that with just their cell phone. And so one of the things that you can do is you can involve them in creating family videos. So the example that I just showed you was a documentary that my family made, and we all were assigned different roles. And we played to everybody's strengths. So I was the narrator. Um, I don't know why, but I was. I was the narrator. My sister was actually the musician. So she made all of the music, or almost all of the music, on the video. My mother was the script writer, so she wrote the script that was followed. And then all of us took turns pitching in to find videos, to create videos, to edit photos, to dig through family photos. We sent people out to go and interview relatives. And then we put that all together in a family reunion style video. And we've done that a couple of times now on different sides of the family. And each time we've used different people, we've used their talents. And at the end of the day, we have this amazing product that, and I mean, it's not a Ken Burns style of product, but it's still a pretty solid product that we then can share to anybody in our family that wants it. Videos is a really, really, really powerful tool. It can always be accessed. It brings everybody together. It provides the visuals. You can translate it into any language with captions. And you can also make them really short. So, you can sit there and say, hey, I just want you to learn 30 seconds about this particular individual. And your teenagers are great at that type of thing. And if they're not great at that type of thing, they want to actually be pretty decent at it because A, everybody wants to be a YouTube star. B, everybody wants to know how to use their phone and connect with others. And C, they watch a lot of videos. So does it always have to be a video? No. I had a student one time who was really interested in Minecraft. And he was doing a research project, and he decided that he wanted to build a place um, from what he was studying, and he put it all into Minecraft, and now he had a Minecraft presentation. And your teenagers can do something similar. Use what they're really good at, whether it be game building, whether it be Canva. I have some Canva examples up on the screen. Even if they're just really good at PowerPoint, or maybe you're trying to teach them technology skills. I found myself doing that this summer. I realized that some of my students that I was working with didn't know technology at all. And so I was teaching them a skill using content, which you can do too. Be like, oh, gee, you need to work on that. I'm trying to improve your skills. So let's teach you that, but let's do it with family history. And as you can see, we actually did it with culture. So capitalize on their technology skills or teach them technology skills, because these students, and these teenagers, if they don't learn technology, they're going to struggle in life. They're going to get to the real world and it's going to be rough. So, next. Ooh, wants to actually play. This is probably one of my favorite things as a teenager. So, when I was about 14 years old, my parents decided that we were going to go on the church history trip. It's the one that everybody pretty much goes on. It's like, we're going to go see Nauvoo, we're going to go see Kirtland, we're going to just go see what we can see. And so in preparation for doing that, my parents decided to make the trip really, really meaningful. And so every family night for almost a year, we would sit there and we would read a couple of pages from our ancestors' little autobiography journal that he wrote. And so we read his whole story about, where he was born, what life was like, his experiences in Nauvoo. This was Benjamin Franklin Johnson was this particular ancestor. His experiences after he crossed the Mississippi, him being so sick that he hadn't kept anything down in days, and he crossed the Mississippi and he was like, it's gonna be fine. I don't know how, but it's gonna be fine. His experiences as he moved to Salt Lake City with pioneers. So we read all that. And at the time, we all kind of thought it was probably a little boring. We were like, oh my gosh, we're having to read from the book again. But then we got out there. We got to Nauvoo and we went down Parley Street. There's this walk you can do down Parley Street, and it follows the trail of the pioneers as they left Nauvoo and crossed the Mississippi in early February of, I believe, 1845. It might have been 1844. And so we did that walk. And the way that it's set up there is that they have a lot of signs that have like the quotes of people who had experienced that walk, that march out of Nauvoo for the last time. And we came across our ancestor and his journal. They had a quote from Benjamin Franklin Johnson. And that really kind of connected to us. Hey, all these things that we had read about this ancestor, here it is. This is where this guy was. These are the experiences he had. And my sister, she went back to Nauvoo, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. And she remembered exactly where everything was. She had been 9 years old at the time, but that was so impactful for her. Maybe it contributed to her becoming an actual genealogist. I don't know. But that was very, very meaningful to us as children, as teenagers. And, my parents, every time we would go on family vacation, we always ended up having to do something family history related. There was one time that we were in Illinois and we had to go through the cemetery to go find the one dude that was in the cemetery. But along the way, we talked all about this, this particular ancestor and who they were and why they mattered. And so just every time we went on family vacation, my parents did a little bit of a spin on family history. So that was pretty cool. A couple of examples of that. The waterfall image that you see on the screen is in Waterton National Park, which is in Canada. And my grandmother grew up in Canada, and every summer they would go to Waterton and they would go see all the sights. And of course, they took photos. And so we, as teenagers, we would go to those same sites and we would look at the before and the current photos, and we would talk about the vacations that our family members went on before we ever got there and just how has it changed or not changed. My family also included, different things. So not only did we do national parks, but we also, as you see, did the temple, which is also in Cardston, Alberta. And we went there and my parents sat there and told us the stories of, our great-grandparents being temple workers, or them helping with the night shift, all the different things associated with that place. And so by telling us the stories, they provided us with a sense of place and space and a little bit about the people that really mattered to us and our family members in our life. So we grew up and my sister and I, pictured down to the bottom left, have continued this tradition. We pretty much always find something family history related wherever we go. So this particular one is in the Cumberland Gap. My sister was doing an internship in Kentucky, and so we decided that we were going to travel around and see everything. And so we were in Kentucky and we went to Tennessee, and my sister said, hey, some of our ancestors came across the Cumberland Gap, and so we have to go see it. And so while we were hiking through the bushwhack, we bumped into, you know, all the signs about the Cumberland Gap, but we talked about the stories of our family coming, and mostly we talked about, man, can you imagine them having to come through this thing in 1800 in their skirts, and you know, a meaningful experience to us. On the top left, we have a really fun photo of an extended family trip. And this is a really important one because as a group, we all decided to get together and we said, what if we went and traced the origin of our family on the East Coast, and that we're all going to play different roles and pieces to bring this whole trip together. And that's really where the teenagers and the children and everybody really comes in, because you all can plan different pieces. You know, the couple on the left, they were able to go out early and they pre-mapped all the routes so that we knew where we were going. So they went and found the cemeteries, and they went and found some of the other locations that we were interested in seeing. And then, you know, on the right, they went and did some research on a particular region, and so that we knew, oh, we were going to go there. Somebody planned all the hotels, somebody planned the flights, somebody planned just some of the details along the way. Somebody planned all the fun activities along the way, because we had fun as well. And not that family history is not fun, but I like hiking, and so I really wanted to go to Acadia National Park. Just saying. But we built a family trip together, and we involved everybody using their talents. And that's what you need to do with teenagers. We then, when we came home from some of these trips, we built books. And once again, everybody had a role. And you as a parent, you know, you might take the production role where you're sitting there going, okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. But then you guys can all create something meaningful together. So I was the photographer, and my sister did something else, and my mother did the chronology, which was the one where you really wanted to get all the details right. My brother helped a lot with the layout, but everybody had a role. So consider that as an option. Every vacation, go do something family history. Day trips was also a big thing that my family did. So we would tie it into family history. Social Hall Museum, which is in downtown Salt Lake City. My mother just one day decided that we were going to just walk around downtown and we were going to see all the sights. And she knew the family stories, and so we were able to go and visit them. But how did she find those family stories? My mother had been told the family stories by her mother. And my mother also had really involved herself in reading the journals and the stories of the ancestors, you know, that they had left behind. And so she was able to then pass that on to us. And here's the real key here with your teenagers, is that if you do not tell the stories die. They don't get heard. And so, you know, my sister and I, we've often joked that we are some of the only ones out of our cousins that have learned the stories, have learned the narrative of our family. And so we've joked and said, we're going to be like 75 or 80 years old, and everybody's going to call us up and be like, hey, what are the stories? And we're going to be like, oh, you know, no, we'll be happy to share. But use activities to help your children learn the stories. So other ideas, we went to the cemetery every Memorial Day, and we would meet up with other family members, and we would just sit there and tell stories. And that's a tradition I've seen in Houston as well, is that a lot of relatives and relatives will go visit their ancestors' graves, and they will tell stories. And that's very, very important, because once again, if you don't tell the stories, your teenagers won't learn them. Even on fun trips where maybe you're going a little bit out of your way, you can still generally find some sort of a connection. So I put the Natchez steamboat. My sister and I were going to be headed over to New Orleans in a couple of weeks. For me, that's not very far away. It's about a 4-hour drive. And we are going to do a jazz cruise on the Natchez steamboat. And well, our ancestors landed in New Orleans when they came to America. And so for us, we get to, listen to the jazz music on the boat, but we also get to experience, from the water, maybe what our ancestors saw just a little bit when they arrived. And so we might sit there and share stories about which ancestors and what they experienced and maybe what happened to them. It's nothing big. It doesn't take a lot of planning, these day trips, but it's still a way to have a memorable experience or a connection. Including teens and family reunions. This is similar to teens and technology, is that everyone can have a role. I pictured a lot of music in this particular one, but teenagers can plan the activities, they can plan scavenger hunts, they can plan the trivia Jeopardy game for the family, they can put these things together. They can plan to help elder relatives with AI or with other technology needs. They can be the planners. They are absolutely capable of being the planners. And honestly, they actually enjoy it. I mean, once again, I work in a school and the students are always like, well, what if I join this club and then I want to do this? Teenagers, if they feel connected and they feel like they have a role and they feel like they have a plan, or something that they can participate in, will put their all into it, given, parameters and help as needed. As an example, my school does a lot on Hispanic heritage, and so they have a club called Por la Cultura. And so there's these teenagers that will stay till 6 o'clock every single night, and they will plan and they will practice because they want to put on a program for the school. And I'm talking about 50 teenagers. And they just stay because they want to be connected. They want to plan, they want to share their culture, their history, their heritage. And it's the same with the family reunions here, is that if you give your teenager responsibility and play to their strengths, maybe they're the ones creating the program, maybe they're the ones doing the food menu, maybe they're the ones coming up with the games, then you really truly not only are engaging your teenagers, but you are also making it so it's more meaningful to them, and they'll maybe continue with the traditions of your family. And then one final thought here in terms of family reunions is that they can be the photographers and the videographers. One of my cousins is really, really into cinematography. He actually does that as part of his professional job now, but he would just go around and he would film the videos, of the family reunion. And so now we have this actual video footage, and that's really powerful. That's really meaningful because, not everybody in this photo that you are seeing is alive anymore, but we still have their memories and we still have stuff from these family reunions. Let's talk a little bit about additional ideas. Family heirloom scavenger hunt. So first of all, we've all accumulated stuff, some of us more than others. And we all generally have something that we've inherited from someone, somewhere, or something. And so one thing that you can do with your teenagers is not only tell the stories of these heirlooms and where they came from and why they're valuable, but you can have them either document them, put them in a scrapbook, or, make photo journals of them. But you can also have them do a scavenger hunt around the stuff that you own. Teenagers really like tactile things. I remember I asked my students way back in the day to find the coolest family heirloom they could think of and either bring a picture or bring it, depending on how their parents felt, to class for a show and tell. And so I had this student walk in with a Nazi flag, and he was so super excited about it. And he said, look, I learned something new. My ancestor, his grandfather, had fought in World War II and had somehow managed to capture a Nazi flag and had brought it home from the war. He's like, I didn't know my grandfather fought in World War II. I didn't know that we had a Nazi flag in our house. And he was so excited. But now he's learned something about his family. he's found that, hey, we have some pretty cool stuff lying around our house, but also that stuff maybe will get preserved and passed on to the next generation. Another one is creating a family cookbook. My sister took this project up, and excuse me, she decided that we were gonna wrangle all these different family recipes and put them together. What is everybody's favorite recipe? And then she went further back and what was it that grandma liked to make? And so we have like grandma stew as an example. And then we went even further back. We had ancestors that joined the church, the LDS church in India. And so they brought with them a curry cookbook, which is actually probably the first curry cookbook ever published. And so, you know, we weren't able to get a hold of that particular cookbook, but we can include curry into our cookbook and then tell the story about how our family joined the church in India and that they brought with them a curry cookbook, Indian cuisine, that it was the first of its kind. And so cookbooks are a great way of binding the family and the stories together. You can even make them more meaningful by including the stories as part of the recipe. You can write down just who enjoyed this recipe or why they made it and when it was used, etc. Additionally, you can plan to celebrate family cultural holidays. Here in Houston, quinceañeras are a really, really, really big thing. So for those of you who don't know, a quinceañera is to celebrate a young woman as she turns 15 years old and essentially becomes a woman. And so they have a major celebration and they talk all about, you know, family and you know, everybody that's come before. And they have food and culture and dance, and that's a great way of celebrating not only the family, but also getting your teenager involved. Other things that you can do is have your teenagers volunteer for family history related projects. So the example I'm highlighting here is called Stories Behind the Stars. I had some of my teenager students do it. And basically they do a little bit of research on a serviceman who passed away during World War II. And then they send their research to this particular collection, the Story Behind the Stars. And this organization is working to put QR codes on each fallen soldier's grave in World War II so that everybody can read their story and know who these men were. And so, you know, it's not necessarily the teenager's family project, but it is getting them interested in history and family history by having them volunteer and help others. And then just kind of one nerdy one that's also an example is GeoGuessr. So I really love geography and I love maps. And one thing that this particular YouTube channel has started doing is that somebody will send him a photo and they won't know where the photo was taken, but they really, really want to know. And he will sit there and he will look at, you know, the Google Maps and he will find the exact location that the photograph was taken. And he can do it with contextual clues. You know, for example, he can look in and see that that's a palm tree style tree. So he's not going to sit there and look in Iceland, for example. And he's just built up this niche talent where he's just really good at geography. You know, your student or your teenager might be just into that type of hobby, and that can be something really useful for family history. Capitalize on their talents. So just a couple last things. First of all, there is a QR code for this slide deck, just in case you happen to want to click on any of the hyperlinks. But just a couple of additional family resources for you working with youth or with teenagers. The first one is Family Search. They are always trying to cultivate and create new family activities. So whether it be on your app or whether it be on the website, they're always looking for how can we involve youth and also children in family history. So always check back. They are always updating and adding new things. The next one comes from BYU. And BYU, who has a large focus on family history, is always coming up with additional resources. And a lot of times it's from a project that students create because, maybe they have to do something, a requirement for class, but they've come up with some really great ancestor games that you can play with your teenagers and also with your children. But other organizations are also hopping on the bandwagon. So you have American Ancestors that have created a lot of resources and games. They have a lot of them. And some of them are really simple, like crossword puzzles, but some of them are a little bit more complex and require you to do scavenger hunts and other things like that. And then this one is kind of one where it's like a family history mystery, where it's kind of teaching children and teenagers to work with resources and research in order to figure out how what's in photographs and how can you put that into memories. But you can build your own family history mystery game. Use your teenagers and their technology capabilities to help you do that. You can build a digital escape room. You can build digital trivia games. And most of the builder sites are completely free and easy to use. And so you can have these games that are created that your teenagers are the ones creating. And so they learn family history, but in the meantime, they're building games and fun things that they like to do online. So that is the rest of my presentation. So Laurie, I guess I'll turn the time back over to you.
I have a couple of questions,
I was just going to ask.
Don.
Yeah.
From online, we have one person asking if you would be able to do this presentation for their stake. She happens to live in Orem.
Or maybe one of the holidays when I'm visiting the stake, I would be happy. I do visit Utah frequently, so
How about doing it remotely,
I can always do it remotely.
like this?
That's always easy.
That's always easy. Good. They'll appreciate that. I have a question. Would you take the link for your slide deck and put that into the chat
Oh, of
for
course.
people who couldn't get that QR code?
Yeah, I'll work on that while we're having a chat here.
I have a second question personally, Don. Uh, um, you had some great demonstration there and comments about the videos that your family had prepared on different ancestors. Have you posted those online? Like, do you have a YouTube channel or someplace where you've made those more generally available?
Yeah, so they're both on YouTube. And so the presentation it's actually hyperlinked for both of them.
And where do you find those? Where's your channel?
They're on different channels. Just go with
Oh,
whatever.
so they're all over. They're
Yeah,
not in a
but
central location. Okay.
no, but they are at least hyperlinked within the presentation.
Oh, okay. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Uh,
you.
Dawn, I've got a comment. I loved what you had to say. Um, there was a study done at Emory University many years ago about the fact of what family history has on the mental health of teenagers. Do you remember about that study? Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of maybe not that study, but similar studies about the importance of family history on teenagers and how they
The most important thing for teenagers' mental health was knowing about their own family history, knowing something about where they came from and that they were part of a bigger group and not like you talked about connecting and the connections that are made. That helps teenagers more than anything else in with mental health. It's a wonderful study. It's been quoted over and over again on different places. I think I'm almost certain it was Emory University. It's probably been 20 years ago at least.
Hey, it's still the same, especially after COVID. Working with teenagers after COVID, and they are coming back and it's almost like they're shell shocked and they don't want to talk to each other and they don't want to,
Yeah,
they're only just barely coming out of it.
right.
But being connected really, really matters. And I agree that family history is, they're hungry for it. I mean, I work in Houston and almost none of the children are LDS at all or anything like that, but they still love family history. They want to connect.
Yep. Yeah. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Well, thanks. Were there any questions from Facebook? Is anybody watching?
I've passed those on already.
Oh, okay. Well, anybody else here have a question? I can say that as I'm a professional genealogist, and when we raised our kids, we raised them doing family history. And when they would come home from school and talk about a particular period of US history or something like that, I would pull out the names of some ancestors and type, oh yeah, so-and-so was in the Civil War, or so-and-so, and tell them about that. And they grew up on it, and they really, really enjoyed it. And I could say that because I know when they don't enjoy something. And so
They love the stories. I agree with you, Laurie. They, if you can connect them to what they're learning, they love it.
Yeah. And, just to know that something about our ancestors and what they did and when they came to America and all that, it just makes it more than just a snore. I've always loved history and geography. So I love maps and all that. Anyway, does anybody have any other comments they'd like to make? Are you, Dawn, you're muted if you're talking.
There's 2 Dons on this presentation.
Oh, Dawn Snow. Sorry. There's not much way to pronounce that differently. Dawn? Yeah.
You're still muted, Don S.
Press your space bar. That should work.
It's okay. I like
That's a
reading
feature that has to be enabled. It's enabled by default, but if it's been disabled, it won't work.
I think he's always the one saying to do that.
He is. Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, or just click on your audio thing at the bottom of the screen. And
There you go. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. Yeah, I lost the whole Zoom thing. I couldn't. There were no controls down at the bottom. They were all
No.
disappeared. Here's a comment that we've done in our family that seems to have helped. We've numbered everybody. I'm snow number 1. My wife was number 2, and the kids as they were born were number 3, 4, and so on. And as they would either marry or were born into the family, they got the next snow number. And the kids, and then we had one time at one of the family reunions, Diane made up a little poem about each kid, about each snow number, as we gave them a little badge that had their snow number on it. And we're up to snow numbers 102, I think it is now, with stuff. And the kids, they realize that makes them part of a bigger thing. They're not out there on their own. They're part of a bigger connection, just like Dawn was talking about being connected. Makes quite a difference. Anyway, that was something that we did.
Fun idea.
Yeah, it's a fun tradition.
So, well, we appreciate very much you putting this presentation together for us and sharing the ways that you've been working with your teenagers, your students there. That's really cool to know. At the junior high that my children attended, there was a teacher there who actually created a family history class and taught that as an elective for a number of years. He's retired now, but it was very popular. And I hadn't even realized that was going on there. And I think it's something that maybe more school districts should try to work into their curriculum, you
I
know.
do know that Ancestry occasionally offers teachers like an educator something or other that they can get into and they can use that to help in their classrooms. So
And I think,
oh,
is it American Ancestors? There's one of those big sites that has created a curriculum.
yeah, there's some really great stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like you even have to think it up, really. I mean, they give you material enough to go on it. Anyway, I'm glad to see that happening because I never thought history was boring. I thought a couple of my history teachers might have been boring. I thought
The profession.
yeah, I thought that was a sad statement because you know, I had one of the ones I had that was really exciting. It changed my life, made me think about things and read things that I might not have. And so I know the difference. And I thought that, you know, history is exciting. It should be presented in an exciting kind of a way. I had one teacher that I quit reading the book because if I read the book, then when I came to class, he just said all of it practically word for word. And I thought I would go crazy, you know. But he was well-meaning, nice guy, but he just, yeah.
Curse of
So
the profession.
what?
I said the curse of the profession.
Profession. Well, you can tell when a teacher really loves what they're talking about, you know. Anyway, so thank you so much for doing this for us. We're appreciate what you do for our group. She's one of our people who on our planning committee, and we're thankful for that. And one thing I wanted to say was, I think you can tell that your parents, even though it was some of that was pre a lot of technology, that they brought you guys up to love family history, and it's just continuing on. So we can do it, folks. You know what I'm saying? We can do this. And
Yeah, they ended up getting a professional genealogist out of their children. Not me, my sister.
yes, and we're going to hear from her and your mom next. That's a good reminder. And we thank you for being here. We're going to start the second hour presentation at about, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes after 11. Those of you who are on Zoom can just stay on. Those on Facebook will need to rejoin for that second hour. And remember, we'll be having a presentation by more members of the Brimhall family about family history coloring books and making your heritage accessible to everyone. So this is starting even younger. So thank you so much, Don. And we'll take our break now.
Thank you.